I've been blessed and lucky enough to be with this the system pretty much from not from the very beginning, but as the system started really coalescing into the organization as it's being now. But I was there from that part, and now to look back on it from here where we are now. So when I see the tens here, it's almost like full circle, right? Because I remember the first time that after I had done a specific self-defense program with Tuhon Carl and his family. I remember when I was finishing, and there was no okay, yeah, thanks for coming as three, here's you did it. They're okay, well, after all this, well, now we just want to make sure that it's going to be, that we got to test it. We got to give you a test. So for me, wow, what is that? More than 25 years ago, I was given that test, which is now the tens now. But back then, we didn't have all that armor, and that's how I know. Even disregarding even street stuff, that's how I know this tens is very similar to the first pressure test that I had to take. Was that first it was Tuhon Carl, his dad came, and I remember his Tito Butch was there, and he came and he was just okay. And again, it was like a fight, because there's nervousness, something's about to happen, and you don't know what's gonna happen, but something's about to happen. They're okay, and they don't tell. No, I'm not told what it is. They're just okay, we're gonna test you. So I'm okay, we're gonna learn how to do it. We're gonna test. This drill, or do I have is it the knowledge of how many? What was this? What was that drill that we were doing? Was it a 6 count? Was it a 12 count drill? I forget. And then it's no, the test was they're gonna swing a pipe at you. Tuhon Carl is gonna swing a pipe at you, and you just don't die, right? And then he's gonna take a knife and he's gonna try to stab you. Don't die.
Was it a training blade?
I think it was a knife.
It was a real knife.
It was a real knife.
Your knife.
Yeah, it was a real knife. I remember I was that's a real knife.
It's your knife.
And then an empty hand. So it was kind of weird, because we went through all that, and then there's the empty hand at the end, right? Which is opposite of certain systems. But I remember Tuhon Carl swung he swung a pipe, and it wasn't a stick, it was a pipe. And I knew that it was real, because even then I was well, he's gonna swing a pipe at me. I was that could hurt, right? That could hurt. We were just using rattan before, now we're using a pipe, and he swung the pipe, and I remember I 2 counted back, I weaved my head back, and I had longer hair back then, and I remember when I moved my head back, that pipe cut through my hair, it just whipped through it, and I was and it cut through it, it was and I was just in that split second, I was if my head was there, it would open up my head, and I was and right then I was oh, I better get that was it. I was we gotta stop this fight. We gotta stop the fight. So it was immediate. It wasn't okay, let me size this up. Let me get this. It was it was just the skill, right? Go. And that kind of intensity, I could see that now in the tens here. Somebody's trying to take your head off. Right? But the nice thing here is, at least now, if you don't get it, if it didn't happen, you have a helmet to stop it, right? Like back then, first of all, I don't think that we were thinking about like that, like FMA back then, it wasn't that safe, right? It wasn't that like, that safe. So I was just lucky enough not to get hit. And then same thing, like the next portion of the test, like, over 25 years ago was like, Tuhon Kali trying to stab me with like a real knife, and I was just like, there was an urgency for that, right? There's an urgency not to get stabbed, and then like I was tapping out, and then I had to lock and to hold, right? Now bring that back to our tens now. Same thing, like there's an urgency, like even though you have armor to not get hurt, the person that's administering that test, the tens, they're trying to bury that, and like, yeah, like that aggression that you feel is very similar to that, like, because yeah, you might not think you get hurt, but hopefully it lands where the armor is.
Yeah.
But a lot of times, like, like it doesn't have, sometimes it doesn't land in the armor. It lands right behind the armor, and now like, so that was like another thing. And again, like, this is where there's that progression of our test. Like, it's not just the one weapon system, right? Or one weapon platform. Well, we go through, once you can do the basic ones, we start moving around, like, okay, hey, now you gotta do a knife, now you gotta do like empty hand, now you gotta do it with multiple people, and it's all really just like, it's just an advancement of like, hey, this is what you train, can you do it, and can you pull it off in real time, right? And now you really know, like, can you really pull off a lock, right? Because most of the time when you see people doing a lock, or let's just not even say a lock, like a disarm, how does it look like? And the person that's feeding and getting disarmed there, that blade just hangs there, right? Or if they're getting punched, the punch stays out there, which we know that that's not the case, right? That punch is either all the way moving forward, or they're retracting it back, right? Same thing with like here. So because of the tens, it's easy to prove, right? Like, it's either going to work or not work, right? Under the stress of somebody trying to hit you with whatever weapon platform we're deciding on for that tens, right? But again, like, it was cool for me to be able to see it, like, the tens now from that tens, like what I'll call tens back then, over 25 years ago, that kind of pressure testing, and now to even have it like more robust, like the tests can be more robust because of the fact that you can administer it and you don't get hurt, you won't get like hurt too badly, because sometimes you can get hurt, right? But like, you don't get hurt too badly. You're able to keep on training, and then still, like, there's a metric for it. Like, you can now like say, hey, what was I doing, or why didn't it work? What do I have to work on, right? And then, even then, like, now, oh, you did that, okay, now you're passing it, but now let's put more, like, because you're never just stuck in one, in like, hey, this is the end of like your skill set, right? Just because you passed one, just because you did one thing, like, I'm good, right? So,
and like you said, like, there are multiple levels of the test.
Right.
It starts at a certain phase, and as you progress, it gets better, more challenging, more opponents,
right?
Like varying weapon sizes, long weapon against short.
Right.
It changes. So you really get to hone your delivery of different things. You know, empty hand between weapons. I mean, like all sorts of stuff. You know, and you know, like you said, if you have a question about it, okay, let's see if we can do it on the test. And then you know you're answering your own questions. You know, it's just like running an experiment like a scientist. You know, okay, let me see if this theory works.
Right.
Let me.
Well, the cool thing again is like, you know, like people or the person that's taking the test kind of is going through that process, but we've already, like, as a system, we've already gone through that process because I mean we've been doing it like from like 25 years ago from that first test to like it's just a delivery of it, like the delivery has been refined for it, like so people come in like, hey, we could prove it, but really we already know, like the system itself knows like what the answer is, but you know, hey, yeah, like, do you have the question? You could see if it'll work on like thing, and then why doesn't it work, and then like how to address like resolving that, because like I, you know, again going back to like my beginning with Tuhon Carl, like it was pretty much that, like it was literally like people would get into a fight, go back to training the next day, hey, you know what, we did this, there was this happened in the fight, you know, like the bouncer came over and he bloused him and then he took him and then like, and how come it didn't work, the elbow didn't work, and then like, okay, show me how you did it, and then like, okay, it's because you forgot to turn their head this way so that elbow, like all you're doing is like bouncing elbows off the top of off the thickest part of their skull, so that's why it's not working. Like all of that through the years has already gone into what the TENS is now, right? So that's why like it's so cool to see from where it was and to see like this, you know, like I wouldn't say a neat package, but like this like structure of that of information to be able to like shown and then to be extracted out of that, and it's you know, it's a basic test, but it can be as complex as we want. The test validates your skill set, you know, your skill set, because from what we've seen, you know, beginners have a hard time with it, they don't pass it, but then also like high, you know, people that are experienced in FMA also have a hard time with it. Like, you know, people that are pretty high ranked in other systems, you know, when they first see that test, like, you know, they don't pass, they have to go back, they have to like, you know, it makes them question, you know, the validity of like their own stuff, right? And now usually, you know, from experience, what we've seen is like somebody goes deeper into what they're trying to do or what they've been doing, because, you know, they've invested a lot of time into it. So therefore, you know, yeah, they want to see like, was it something that I didn't, why didn't it work? Why didn't I do it? And then like, you know, but again, for us, like we're saying that you're in the Atienza system, you know, good 3 years will get you start like getting closer and closer to passing that test. Right. But then again, like that's still just the tip of the iceberg there, right? Because it's like, that's our basic test. Yeah. You know, and then once you get good at that, you're like, you start moving up. Right?
We have guys come in class, you know, that have done other styles, and they're like, well, I want to do this type of footwork, I want to do this technique. You know, and you show them what you're doing, and then you know, they're on the side, and then they're gimmicking up, trying to put what they've done before in it, and then you see them get crushed in the test, and they're like sitting there wondering, like, well, man, why did I learn footwork like that? And then they're asking you questions about the training that they had from before, and you're like, hey, man, I don't know what you did before, but obviously, like that footwork's not working for you, or you're not delivering the techniques in the right time frame or right order. I'm like, so, you know, this helps to address and answer a lot of questions, you know, like, just like in like when the UFC first came out, like the first UFCs, a lot of guys see it now, and you got everybody that's all training the same stuff, and they're all matched up, skill set against skill set, and they know what works. But in the beginning, it was about to see what system was more effective for what they were doing, Right. So you had different styles going against each other. Well, basically, that's what our test does. I mean, I'm gonna swing at you, try to hit you, and if your techniques aren't working, then you need to readdress them.
Right.
So, and I think every system needs some sort of testing that validates their techniques. And that's what we have. And like you said, it's only the tip of the iceberg. That's only one small thing.
Yeah, I mean, even like once you get past the aggression, right? Like so for me, it's always been the aggression part first. But then after that, like the next step is that, it's a random feed, right? It's still random. Like it's not always gonna be the same feed. So you don't know what it is. Like yes, it falls a lot of times because of like the way people move. It kind of falls into a pattern, but that's with everything, right? But at the same time, you don't know, like the person who's throwing it, who's administering the test, they can do whatever they like in the structure that we're kind of giving for the test, right? And that right there, like now you gotta chain all those things, all your techniques together. Right, and now you're seeing like, okay, and that's like pretty real. Like a lot of people, like if you can get the first shot and it works, that's the end of the fight, right? But sometimes, I mean, for most people, one shot doesn't end the fight. I mean, like, I know someone that has ended a fight, but that's with one shot because they pretty much hit the guy in the back of the head, like when he wasn't looking. So that's why that one fight, ended like that. But in most fights, it doesn't end with one shot, right? So here, there's multiple shots coming in at you, and you still must function inside that, right? So that was another thing of like the test that kind of like came in. Like I've seen other systems of pressure testing, but it's really just one technique that they're trying to do. Here, it's a bunch of strikes that you must counter, right? So, and all fed with that same kind of aggression, and not in a order that's like has to be this order, right?
And it's like you said, it's off the cuff. Guy attacks you with, like the body can only move a certain amount of ways. So, and the attacks can come in only a certain amount of ways if they're going to actually hit metal targets. So, but like it's a free chain of attacks that the person can deliver. And it prepares you for that. You understand like the angles of attack. What you need to do to dissipate that force or change the line or deal with but also, a lot of the systems are like, you're sparring, but you're sparring one person, or you're rolling with one person. Get that tunnel vision, you're fixated just on that one thing, and next thing you know, you're not really addressing, because I've done a lot of security work, and I've developed a lot of bad habits just from fighting one-on-one. But then you go to work that night and you've been sparring. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm good. I'm like, and all of a sudden you get hit in the back of the head with chairs and bottles, or guys that just want that lucky shot because they want to hit somebody and they see you tied up and they reached over and pop you, give you one, So like, dealing with stuff like that, it's a little bit different because guys see a movie, they're like, oh, I'm going to square up with this guy. And next thing you know, they're getting just rushed and getting, crumbled under a pile of guys. And it's like they're surprised if they, and they're shocked and they're like, man, what happened? Like, hey man, like.
I mean, that experience that you said was one of the first experiences I saw of somebody being administered our test. Like, they expected something, this is what it was gonna be, and then it happened, and then next thing you know, they're like in a ditch because they got just bum rushed through, and and they're trying to get away, and they're in a ditch. I was like, and if that's not how if that doesn't match the chaos of like a street fight, I don't know what does.
Yeah.
You know.
But also, and like you said, the guy ended up in a ditch. But you see it, like, people fall in fights all the time. But then you get guys that like fall in fights because they train to fall in fights, jump and guard in a street fight on concrete. Man, are you serious? Like crazy stuff like that, you know. Problematic stuff in martial arts. I mean, granted, you know, you have to train certain things to get a skill set, like work the guard or work all that stuff. But you don't jump into a guard in combat, man. You don't do any that's stuff that should be addressed and told to people. But unfortunately, there's a lot of stuff that gets missed in corporate martial arts classes. You know, when people are trying to string people along for a black belt or whatever it is, or whatever they're trying to achieve with their skill set and their delivery. But when you're really getting used to people coming at you at different angles and attacking you multiple times, and over time it's like nobody's saying you're going to be good at it. You're going to get crushed like anybody else. But then over time you adapt, and then you start working and you're passing it. You're like, okay, so why weren't we doing this in the beginning? It's like one of those things. It's like and a lot of it goes into like year and like the thought process, but also like some guys that they don't want to address the reality of getting hit or they don't want to answer those questions because they have to put their stuff on the line. But yeah, the testing was genius. And like I said, it was like one of the best things that I've seen implemented in martial arts, and it's I've definitely seen it like help answer a lot of questions for a lot of guys, especially our guys, because all of our guys in our system are about reality because they've seen a lot of stuff, and that's why they sought this system out, myself included.